Underlying love, beneath the surface it lies, in the whispers of secrets and unspoken ties, caught between the heart's gentle tug and the dance of romance, in the arms of love.
You are listening to Bradley Barkhurst's Underlying Love, a Worthington, Ohio mystery. Chapter 10, Part 2, The Winds of Change. Reluctantly, Elizabeth allowed Betty to hoist her up into the tree's lower boughs. Heart pounding, she slowly scaled higher, while Betty kept watch below. Reaching a sturdy branch near the window, Elizabeth steadied herself and listened intently to the quarreling voices inside. She could just make out a man and a woman. Peering through the window, Elizabeth could scarcely believe her eyes. There stood a scantily clad Mrs. Collins, wearing some sort of red lace bustier, with Dr. Bentley shirtless before her.
Well, aren't they the happy new couple?
Elizabeth whispered to herself wryly. She shifted higher in the tree, trying to catch their heated argument.
I'm telling you, it's too risky to try anything further now,
Bentley was saying in an agitated tone. Mrs. Collins crossed her arms angrily.
You said you'd handle this. How long must we keep living in fear?
Bentley gripped her shoulders.
Just be patient a little longer. I've worked too hard to let it all unravel now.
Elizabeth strained to hear more, but they moved away from the window. She had heard enough. However, they were conspiring about something sinister. Crouched precariously on the tree branch, Elizabeth strained to hear more of the argument through the open window.
This is all your fault,
Mrs. Collins shrieked, jabbing her finger at Dr. Bentley.
We could have been lounging on a California beach if your plan with that blasted milkman hadn't fallen apart.
Bentley took a swig from a bottle of scotch.
Well, excuse me, but it's not my fault. The insurance company is dragging their feet on your husband's $100,000 life insurance payout.
Elizabeth's eyes widened. $100,000 life insurance policy. That certainly sounded like a motive for murder. She hurriedly scribbled notes in the moonlight as the tree branch wobbled under her. Just then, a strong gust whipped up, nearly blowing Elizabeth out of the tree. She clutched the trunk tightly, heart lurching as the unfinished note fluttered away into the blackness below. From inside came the sound of breaking glass and renewed shouting.
This is a mess. You need to fix it, Edgar.
Mrs. Collins cried shrilly. Edgar. So that was Dr. Bentley's first name, Elizabeth realized. More useful information. She committed as much as she could to memory for later. The wind subsided, allowing Elizabeth to quickly whisper, while hanging on the branch, the bombshell details to Betty, cautiously waiting below.
This proves it's all about money,
she whispered. Betty's eyes gleamed.
We've got them now. We must go to Detective Morris immediately.
Elizabeth nodded firmly. The pieces were falling into place. Come morning light, their shadowy scheme would be exposed at last. Elizabeth listened intently as Dr. Bentley tried reassuring Mrs. Collins.
Don't worry, you'll get the insurance money soon and I'll collect on my poker winnings from Jameson,
he told her.
As long as he owes me gambling money, I can keep him in line.
Just then, the sound of a child crying came from the other room.
Why is that girl still up? I already put Amy to bed.
Mrs. Collins scowled. As she stormed off, Elizabeth realized this might be her only chance to photograph them together. She steadied her camera just as a gust of wind whipped up. The flash bulb popped brightly, illuminating the yard. Startled, Elizabeth lost her balance and tumbled out of the tree with a thud.
Oof!
She grunted as she hit the ground. Betty rushed over and urgently helped her up. Just then, they heard Mrs. Collins bellow.
Who's out there?
Adrenaline surging, the women sprinted away just as the porch light flicked on. They didn't stop running until safely back at Betty's house, hearts pounding wildly.
Do you think he saw us?
Elizabeth gasped. Betty shook her head.
I don't believe so, but that was a close one.
She turned to Elizabeth excitedly.
Tell me, did you get the photograph?
Gingerly, Elizabeth pulled out the camera.
I think so,
she said. Elizabeth and Betty hurried home. Elizabeth placed the camera on the kitchen table and hoped to develop the film soon. The next morning at school, Elizabeth noticed little Amy Collins' desk was empty. She stepped into the hall to ask the principal if he'd heard from Mrs. Collins about Amy's absence.
No, she hasn't called in today,
he said, looking concerned. An hour later during lessons, the principal knocked urgently and said Mrs. Collins was on the phone, insisting to speak with Elizabeth right away. Elizabeth rushed to the office phone, pulse racing.
Mrs. Collins, is everything okay?
She asked anxiously.
It's Amy, she's gone.
Mrs. Collins cried hysterically.
She wasn't in her room this morning. I've looked everywhere.
Elizabeth gripped the phone tightly.
Stay calm, I'll be right there,
she said in her most soothing teacher's voice.
Principal Gentry, can you please cover my classroom? Amy Collins has gone missing.
Elizabeth breathlessly asked.
Of course,
he replied. She grabbed her coat and purse. The principal called after her.
Keep me informed.
She rushed out the door without a word, focused on reaching the Collins home. Had something awful happened to Amy? Was she hurt? Or worse? Elizabeth refused to assume the worst yet. Amy adored school. She wouldn't just run off. Unless she was scared. Elizabeth picked up pace, praying they would find the little girl safe. She thought of the confrontation last night. Had Amy heard something sinister? Swallowing hard, Elizabeth hurried on. When Elizabeth arrived at the Collins house, a distraught Mrs. Collins confronted her angrily.
Did you tell Amy to go somewhere?
She demanded.
That girl seems to listen to you.
Elizabeth held up her hands.
No, I haven't spoken to her. I have no idea where she could be.
Mrs. Collins just slammed the door in her face. Elizabeth searched the neighborhood streets for any sign of Amy, but found nothing. Growing more worried by the minute, she went to see if Betty had noticed anything odd. Betty was on her porch, waving.
Home for a quick lunch, dear?
No, Betty, Amy Collins is missing.
Elizabeth cried breathlessly.
She never showed up at school today.
Betty gripped Elizabeth's arm, face paling.
Good Lord, poor child, who knows what trouble she could run into alone.
Thinking fast, Betty grabbed a coat.
You keep canvassing the neighborhood. I'll gather up a search party. We'll scour every inch of Worthington if we must.
Elizabeth felt a rush of gratitude for Betty taking charge. With her friend's help, surely, they'd soon locate the vulnerable girl unharmed. She refused to consider any darker alternative. They must find Amy before someone with sinister intent does. Elizabeth recalled the heated argument Amy might have overheard last night. What secrets had the girl unearthed? Shaking off dread, Elizabeth hurried on in pursuit of answers. After finding no trace of Amy in the neighborhood, Elizabeth headed home to fetch her father's camera in case they needed evidence. But approaching her back door, she gasped. The glass was shattered and the door was left ajar. Signaling frantically to Betty, they cautiously entered the house. Elizabeth saw that her camera was missing from the kitchen table where she'd left it. Venturing further inside, drawers were flung open and clothes were strewn around her ransacked bedroom. Elizabeth's heart sank, realizing she'd been robbed.
Oh dear, what a violation,
Betty murmured, surveying the mess.
though it does suggest you're on the right track uncovering the truth.
Elizabeth nodded grimly. She was certain this was retaliation for spying last night. But personal threats mattered little now. Finding Amy was all that concerned her.
The camera will have to wait. We must keep searching for that child.
She said firmly, grabbing her coat and relocking the damaged door. Betty gave her hand a supportive squeeze.
Too right. With luck, others have picked up the search by now.
Hurrying downtown, Elizabeth saw with relief that was true. Small groups of neighbors combed the streets, calling Amy's name. She would not rest until the girl was safe. The hunt stretched on as the short autumn day darkened. But Elizabeth refused to give up hope. They would light the way through Worthington's shadows and bring Amy home.
Thank you for listening to Bradley Barkhurst's Underlying Love, a Worthington, Ohio mystery. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and purchase the novel. Will Elizabeth and the search party find any clues or leads about Amy's whereabouts? Will the missing camera and the break-in at Elizabeth's house have any connection to Amy's disappearance? And will Betty find her missing Jell-O recipe? Stay tuned for the next episode of Underlying Love, a Worthington, Ohio mystery. Chapter 11, Part 1, The Policy of Truth.